Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kingdom Says podcast. I am not your usual spot at the co-hosting chair at the number one slot. Garrett is unavailable today, as is Tom, but luckily we are joined by an excellent guest who is gracious enough to give us a few minutes of his time on a crazy busy Super Bowl week for all that involved covering the sport. Matt, how you doing today, Matt?
I'm good. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm recovering. Got bit by the flu bug last week. At the end of last week, it's kind of taken me out all weekend. Missed a bunch of stuff, but back on my feet a little bit today. Hopefully to get a little bit better as we go and progress towards the game and get going again. So interested to see how tonight goes. Obviously with the media days and media nights, but ready for the three-peat start, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's going to be the dominant storyline this week, right? I mean, last time these two teams got together, it was all about the Kelsey Bowl and Andy Reid. It's not that this time around. I mean, this time around, it's can they three-peat? And I think that's not just a Chiefs storyline. That is the storyline of this game. I don't know. Look, the Eagles have some storylines. You know, Saquon Barkley trying to cap off an incredible year. A lot of guys trying to get their first rings on this team. But I think the dominant storyline this week is going to be, can the Chiefs make history? And they're 60 minutes from doing it.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling around a lot of the Chiefs circles. If you're on the social media websites, if you're in and around those, it's kind of the vibe that everybody's getting from that. From my perspective, anyway. I wanted to briefly touch on a couple of things. One that took place today. I don't know how much time you've had to look through or see of Roger Goodell's presser today. What were some of your big takeaways? I know he addressed the the refs sounds just like the script, and he said all that but there were some other interesting things in there. That was one of them. Also, the potential for the eventual international franchise, and then by default, international Super Bowl. Just kind of what were some of your takeaways from that interview with him today?
Yeah, I don't care much about all the script stuff. I mean, anyone who believes that's a moron. I thought it was more interesting to talk about, having an international franchise. There's just a lot of logistical problems that go into that, but obviously the NFL is at least interested in it and exploring it. I think if you have one international franchise, you got to have a bunch of them. I don't think there's a world like, what are you gonna do if one team in London and then they just come over for like a month at a shot? I think you're almost compelled to have like a European division at that point. You'd have to have like a team in London, a team in Paris, a team in Berlin, whatever you want to do. I think as Americans, sometimes you lose sight of the fact that like Europe's like a very small countries comparatively to the United States. Like you could do it. The travel wouldn't be crazy, but are those teams going to play the American teams during the season? Obviously they would have to at some point. So there's a lot of logistical concerns that go into it. I've always felt like it'd be easier to take, let's say, Wembley Stadium and say, all right, we're going to play a game there every single week of the year, or eight games. We're going to play 8 games. It basically felt like a season ticket package. I'm not the first person who's ever said that. I know Nick Wright has said that, but it's been my thought as well. Like, could you do it where maybe you have 8 games in Germany, 8 games in England, every team plays one international game every year, and you just sell 2 season ticket packages that way? I think that's a lot easier than sticking a team in Berlin. It's like, all right, I mean, you're going to have a hard time getting free agents to go there, right? I mean, you're going to have guys going, hey, man, listen, I got a family. I got kids. And so I'm not going to Berlin. So it's just, I get why the NFL wants to do it. I get the door being open. But the NBA's talked about this for 20 years, and they haven't done it. There's a reason. It's hard. Logistically, it's very, very hard.
Yeah, I think the travel for the teams that are still based in the United States is another key thing, because when they do those international games, they really need to get over there several days and ahead of time, and you're moving your whole operation over there for a temporary thing to move them back. It's just, there's a lot to it. That just seems like a bunch, but I just thought it was interesting that I know that they're of course interested in it for the monetary benefits and all of that stuff, but just from a functional perspective of the league, and like you mentioned, free agents, there's teams in the US that have enough trouble getting free agents to go there because the cities aren't exactly what they want, or the weather's not what they want. Like, what happens when you want them to move to another country with different laws and different everything?
Yeah, they don't go.
Tax brackets, all that stuff. So
yeah, they don't go. It's just very difficult. I mean, it'd be very, very difficult. And on top of that, too, like you're talking about, okay, a lot of times you notice when these teams play in London or in Germany, they're East Coast teams. A lot of times. Not all the time, but a lot of times. You don't see the Arizona Cardinals going over there. You don't see the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks typically going over there. A lot of times, I mean, Jacksonville, of course, goes over there every year. But a lot of times it's the New Englands of the world. It is the Giants. It is the Jets. Really, it only goes really as far as like Midwest, like Green Bay, Minnesota, Kansas City. You start talking about San Francisco, you know how long of a plane ride that is? Like, you're halfway around the world to get to that game. So I just think it's a very big logistical challenge. Also, I don't believe for a second they're ever putting the Super Bowl outside of the United States, at least not in the next 20, 25 years. Okay, that thing is such a money-making machine. They are not going to make media go overseas unless they are legitimately to a point where there's a chance an international team could play in it. If that doesn't happen, I think it's a very, very, very big stretch.
That was kind of my reaction when he said something about the Super Bowl. I was like, I mean, the Jaguars would love to move to London. Shad Khan has made that clear. He'd like to be the team that moves internationally if there is one that goes that route. But putting the Super Bowl in, it's just a large production ask, especially because most of your infrastructure and logistics for all that stuff is here. So it just seemed odd. The other thing the one thing about the official stuff that I did think was interesting, he talked about how they're evaluated and how dedicated they all seem to be to getting it right. And my question would be, when are we going to see the NFL show the same dedication to that by making these folks full-time and making them put in the same amount of time and hours and effort and energy that all the players and staff and coaches do, and making them answer questions post-game instead of just a one pool reporter? Because that's the only way to really fix this, in my opinion.
I have talked to people in the league about this for the last 2 years. About why aren't officials full-time, what needs to be done. And look, you don't get a uniform answer on it, but I think a lot of people in the league feel like players and coaches will tell you they should be full-time. They should. The NFL doesn't want to make them full-time because then they got to give them, all kinds of benefits and everything else. They don't want to give them benefits. And officials are pretty well compensated for these games. A lot of these guys, they're making well into the six figures. So there's not a huge push. Like, the officiating union is not going to sit there and say, well, we're just not going to officiate a game until we get full-time jobs. They don't be fired. Like, the NFL think that's nice and go get a bunch of officials. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, the NFL breaks the players union every time they have negotiated. The players union is incredibly more powerful than the officials union. The NFL treats the players union like it's three guys in a coffee shop. I mean, they destroy them every time they go into a negotiation with them. It's just very difficult. I don't think they're going to be full-time anytime soon. I think, look, they really need to just go to the eye in the sky more, in my opinion. And I know people push back and, the games are going to be long. Man, people watch college football damn games 4 hours because, they stop the clock after every first down. There's a million reviews in college football. To me, if you got to review 3 extra plays a game, so what? What's it going to take you? 5 minutes? Who's not watching the NFL because of that? I don't have a problem with it. They've already even started doing a lot of this, like the immediate replay assist from New York. Just do it. And I think they should do it for all 15-yard penalties. To me, those penalties are enough. Now, we can sit here and talk about the Josh Allen and did he get a first down? That stuff is always going to be on some level a judgment call. It just is. And my answer to that is, and I would say it is the other way too, like, then get more than 10 inches. Pick up 18 inches. You don't have to have this conversation. Don't run a play that you've gotten stuffed on 800 times previously. Like, I think you're always going to have judgment calls, and that's part of sports. It always has been, always will be. But there are some calls that are just obvious. I'll give you a call from that game that was obvious in real time. I think it was Hollywood Brown got face masked. I mean, that's a call that instantly, if they had, like, they would look at that one time, it's 15 yards. That's the kind of stuff that I think that's a quick, easy review, and you take out a lot of this nonsense that these people who wear tinfoil hats scream about.
Yep, and it's not just that face mask, but if we rewind even to earlier this season, Sam Darnold got face masked in the end zone.
Against the Rams. Yep.
Rams, like, right in front of the whole world, and flag stayed in the pocket, and everybody's like, what happened? Yep. And we saw it work with, this is going to sound insane, but we literally watched the XFL use the replay assist to near perfection. It seemed like it was quick, it was easy, it was boom, it's there, it's done, we're moved on. Cool. We had an answer, we didn't. So there's some stuff they can do. I find it odd that a bajillion-dollar industry doesn't want their officials to have the same amount of time, training, impact, input spent in the buildings as they do every other portion of their business. And they're one of the crucial three pieces on the field that make a game operate. It just seems odd to me. But that's I get the not having the benefits thing, but at some point, not having the benefits, not paying the benefits outweighs the we have to listen to this every day, every week, every month for years.
If you're the NFL, is that a bad thing?
Not necessarily, because any pub is good pub if
You're
we've
just in the
learned
conversation.
anything.
They don't care. It's not hurting their bottom line, right? I
That's
mean,
fair.
the ratings have gone nothing but up. The advertising dollars have gone nothing but up.
That's fair.
They don't care. They don't care that Chiefs fans don't want to hear about the games being rigged. Like they're looking at it like, nah, that's fine. I mean,
That's true.
the NFL could hold a preseason game in April, and it would outrate an NBA playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just don't care. It doesn't. They've turned the schedule release into something that people build their calendar around. It's just the NFL is king, and they know it. And I don't think they're going to be in any rush to start laying out any more money anytime soon.
If you ever need any more evidence of that, LeBron's quote on Christmas, followed by the ratings that came out of Christmas, was a highlighter example of the NFL runs whatever they want, whenever they want. So on that note, with a little bit of the NBA NFL crossover, there's been a lot of, obviously there was a massive what is happening trade in the NBA with the Luka and AD trade that came out late. Was that Saturday night, Friday night? I can't even remember now.
Saturday night. Yep.
Yeah, right after the Lakers finished playing the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. I've seen lots of what would this be like in the NFL comparisons, including from some who have apparently no idea what would actually.
It wasn't good.
We all saw that.
Well, that was like, I'm not going to comment, but it's not great.
What does that trade look like in the NFL for you if that was an NFL deal?
That's like if the Bills traded Josh Allen for like, I don't know, like I don't want to overstate it. I'm trying to think of a really like a legitimate example. If the Bills traded, because you're not talking Mahomes, because Mahomes would be like Jokic. So like it'd be like if the Bills traded Allen for Dak, like
and a couple of role players and a pick.
like his an injury history. Like it's like if the Bills traded Josh Allen for Dak, a pass rush specialist, and like a second round pick.
Yeah.
All right, you would see that come across the timeline and be, oh my God, Rappaport just lost his account. Like there's no way, I think it's that, and it fits too, because in this case, Dallas actually is winning the trade, not losing it. But yeah, I think it would be something like, it would certainly not be Lamar Jackson for Joe Burrow. That
no.
doesn't, no, like no, it would be like Allen being traded to Dallas for, like Dak in like a second or something, like something ridiculous where you'd be, but see, I got to tell you, I think the NFL would almost step in.
You would think.
I think the NFL would be like, you're not doing that. Like, that is a terrible idea. You know what I mean? Like, now maybe they'd go, hey, thank God the Cowboys are finally decent. Maybe they would. But it almost like the NBA when David Stern just threw his body in front of the Chris Paul trade like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not happening. I think we almost might have something like that if the NFL ever did something to that extent.
Yeah, people thought Sham's account was hacked for a while. We had to have multiple verifications, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So that said, there's obviously we're recording this on Monday. You guys will hopefully see it tonight, maybe right before the Chiefs portion of the media gets kicked off. We'll see how quickly we can get this turned around. But what are you looking forward to? Obviously, there's going to be 12 billion reporters and reporter-ish folks that have access to media night. Obviously, there's always wild, crazy, weird questions. What do you look forward to the most? You've covered several of these. What's the most fun, and what do you look forward to the most at media nights when you're down in that scrum?
I'm a curmudgeon. I look forward to when it's over, because to me that is just. I'll never forget. I was down in Houston, and it was the first Super Bowl week I'd ever gone to. I didn't cover the game. It was the Pats and Falcons, but I was there for the week. And I was down there for media night. And a guy was walking around in a garbage can, like literally dressed in like a 40-gallon garbage can. And it had Osweiler 17 on it.
Oh, no.
And the NFL credentialed this guy.
Oh God.
And I was like, I can't believe I'm in the same room right now as this guy trying to do my job. That like the best part can be, if people have it, like if they're lighthearted and you get somebody who's in a pretty good mood at the podium, like you can get some interesting answers, some stuff that's fun, kind of intriguing. I think that's the best because you're not going to get like super serious. Like Spagnuolo's not going to sit there and tell you what his game plan is for this game, right? He's not going to be, we're going to play a lot of cover two and like, I mean, they're not going to do that. So you're not going to get a bunch of hard hitting answers. I mean, look, obviously, yeah, the dream as a media member is somebody says something crazy and you're like, oh my God, like, okay, that's the story for the whole week. I will be shocked if anybody in Kansas City does that. They've been there a million times. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. The Chiefs are going to be the most boring team in the world for the next 6 days. And if Andy and Brett Veach have it their way, they're gonna keep this team sequestered in like Biloxi, Mississippi. Okay, I've covered the Chiefs in a few Super Bowls, and I'll be down there on Wednesday. And I always laugh because like the teams they've played have always stayed right there downtown. The Chiefs have stayed literally an hour drive outside of the cities. I remember when they played Miami. The Niners stayed right downtown. They're right next to like the media hotel, basically the convention center. The Chiefs were in, oh God, what was the name of this city? Aventura, which was a 50-minute bus ride outside Miami. They were staying across from a strip mall. Like they couldn't have if they could have kept them in South Carolina, they would have done it. And so, look, I think the Chiefs will be boring. The Eagles, I would imagine won't say anything that's too inflammatory. But yeah, every once in a while you get a fun answer, and that's cool. And every once in a while you get an answer, you're like, wow, that's going to carry the week. These teams are experienced. I wouldn't think you'd get that, but you never know. That's what makes it interesting.
I saw that. I think your guy, Mr. Patrick Allen, is staying in the same hotel as the Chiefs are right now. Is from what if I saw his Twitter post correctly.
I'll have to text him and ask him. I'm not sure. I know over at Sports Illustrated, we're in like one of the 3 NFL media hotels. So
gotcha.
I'm chilling at a Marriott, but I don't know where he is. I'll have to call him and ask.
So did you find it interesting? I don't know if you saw this or not, but the Eagles held like a rally before they left where there was a lot of player, like Brandon Graham, for example, at least there was a quote that leaked out from him about get ready for a party on Bourbon Street. We're taking them down, so on and so forth. There's already been some conversations about the bulletin board type stuff that Kansas City absolutely shies away from. Like I said, I expect a whole bunch of Joe Tooney answers.
Yeah.
Yep, we're just here. Thank you. Have a great day. But is that, I know it's not something the Chiefs do. Is that a thing a lot of the other franchises do when they go to the Super Bowls, the pre-rallies and stuff like that before they leave?
I mean, it depends. Look, some like the Chiefs, a lot of like fans in the area kind of like had send-offs for players, stuff, like lining their street.
Yeah.
I don't know that like a lot of cities do that where it's like, hey, we're gonna have like a rally before you go. I would advise anybody on the Eagles, just don't say anything. Don't like it. It will be blown up on a billboard and put in their locker room for the game. And I gotta tell you, like this is one game, and this is always true for any Super Bowl, but especially because of the history and the historical impact of this one. I think the Chiefs are gonna need any extra motivation in this game. I hesitate to say this because it sounds ridiculous, but I really think it's true with this team. They've basically waited this entire year to play this game. I think there's almost been a general internal expectation, like we're going to be there. And I think the only game they've really taken, like we've got to buckle down and play 100% is the Buffalo game a week ago. That's it. Even the Houston game, I covered the Houston game. If you watch the tape of that game, like they didn't show anything. They basically just played like a very vanilla offense. They're like, all right, we're going to win. It's fine. We don't have to do anything. Heat up Stroud a few times. The Bills game was the first game I thought they really they're like, all right, we're going to open up. We're going to do some things. And they torched them. They're not going to need any motivation. So yeah, if you're an Eagles player, I think you're probably best just to, hey, they're a great team. We respect them. And we're looking forward to the opportunity of playing them on Sunday.
Yeah, and Brandon Graham's known. Travis has talked about it on his podcast a ton. BG talks a lot all the time. Right. He's a vocal dude. They've got a lot of respect for each other. These two teams and these two franchises, of course, respect one another. Andy spent how many years there? There's no way they don't. It's just interesting to see the little subtleties and differences between how both organizations really have do certain things in anytime you get franchises that meet up in these games. So thought that was interesting. We've talked about some of it. There was a lot of conversation. Several of us had said throughout the year the Chiefs appear to be holding things back. Andy hasn't pulled the stuff out of his pocket. And a lot of us were screamed at and yelled at and told that we were wrong. And then we go to the Buffalo game, and you've got Bills players and staff and now film analysts and guys like yourself that are like, they pulled all kinds of stuff out of the trunk that no
Yeah.
one's ever seen before, including Colin Saunders saying, I was with that team for 4 years. I never saw it in practice or a game. What is that? Is there so they definitely clearly do it. That's not something that's normal, but it's something that this team has been doing and has done for the last several years. Is that kind of your feel on it too?
Yeah. Look, I don't want to say they're the first team that I've ever seen do it because, like the Patriots, I'm sure, I was younger, but if you went back and looked, I'm sure they did it. I just wasn't covering the league really at that point yet, at least for most of the dynasty. But I do think with the Chiefs, there's no question they do it. I mean, how much you want I would wager a significant amount of money in this game. They'll run 25 to 30 plays. I haven't shown all year long. They will. They'll do it. They've practiced them for 7, 8, 9 months, and they'll just roll them out and they'll execute them. That's the thing to me that's amazing is they execute them. They don't mess up. They don't have alignment issues. They roll them out. Okay, fine. Here you go. I think back to the first Super Bowl they were in with Mahomes, the Rose Bowl parade. That's a play. Like most teams would never have the guts to call out a fourth and inches in a Super Bowl. And the Chiefs are like, that's what I'll call that. Yeah, they're going to stop. They have no idea what the hell they're doing. You're trying to figure out who the hell's blocking who and who's got to shoot a gap. I think the Chiefs, that is a testament to their greatness. They've lost one real game this year and basically didn't play with their best stuff all year long and beat all these teams anyway. Like, just basically said, like, yeah, we're going to play with a B game plan. We're going to play with a C game plan. It's fine. Good beat you anyway. And they save stuff for games like this. And by the way, it goes for the defense too. They're going to show 4, 5, 6 blitzes in this game. They've not shown all year long. That they will show a certain look, and Hurts and the Eagles and the offensive line go, okay, we've seen this on tape. We know what they're doing, and they'll do something completely different out of it. And in the Super Bowl, in a game like this, if you do that one time that leads to a turnover, you probably win. Like, that is the difference in games like this.
So that leads me to my next stuff. We've looked at the left tackle position. We've watched the offensive line all year. They've had their struggles at points in time. They seem to have had a little bit more of a solidified offensive line presence the last few weeks. With the strength of this Eagles D-line being interior, I'm in the camp that I would have preferred to see Joe kick back inside and then play DJ Humphries. I know that that's likely not going to happen. What is your thought process on that? Because watching Mike Caliendo getting picked up like a kindergartner and carried back into Mahomes last week by one of the Bills D linemen has me a little concerned if Jalen Carter decides to line up across from him and try to just walk him places.
I mean, Jalen Carter typically lines up over the right guard. So I think that's going to be a lot of what we see is him on Trey Smith. But they'll run twists. They'll run games. They'll line him up there occasionally. And if you're the Chiefs, every time he lines up there, if possible, I'd slide Humphrey and double him. I think, listen, I'd slide the line that way. It's not perfect. It's not easy. But the flip side of that is if you're putting Humphreys in, you're asking the guys to play like 30 snaps all year to go in there and start in the Super Bowl. If I'm the Chiefs, at this point, that's a break glass in case of emergency deal. Like, their offense has been rolling with Tooney. Yeah. They played great. I wouldn't change it. I get it. I totally get it. But here's the other side of this too here. Like, the Eagles' edge rush is not great in this game. It's not bad necessarily, but it's not great. Like, Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith are fine, but they're not, Hassan Reddick of a couple of years ago ripping off the edge, or Nick Bosa. They're not those guys. So I think for the Chiefs, if Taylor and Tooney can handle them, and Juwan Taylor, to his credit, has been great in the playoffs throughout his Chiefs career. Like, if he can handle that side and Tooney can handle his, you can double inside. You can help inside. And, like, they don't have a secondary. Milton Williams is fine. You don't have to double Milton Williams. Like, you can handle him one-on-one. Look, I have said this in every radio spot or podcast I've done, including my own. If the Chiefs block the Eagles, they're going to win this game. I don't care. I have all the respect in the world for Fangio and the secondary. That's great. They have Mahomes. If Mahomes has 3 seconds to go somewhere at the ball, you're done. You're losing. The game's over. Like, he is going to torch you. I think Jalen Carter's got to wreck shop in this game. Those edge rushers have to wreck shop in this game. If they can't do it, they're going to lose. And I think if you're Kansas City, you've got multiple ways to attack this. And listen, if early in the game, Caliendo's getting killed, then put Dooney there. It's not you can't do it. Like, if you have to slide him in, slide him in. But I would expect that they will leave it as is, and unless it's a major problem, they won't change.
Yeah, I've gotten more and more accustomed to that. I would have liked to see the swap probably last game or even the game prior, the first game of the playoffs against Houston. If they were going to do it, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that it was pretty much going to stay that alignment once that happened, unless something happened drastically. So it's kind of where I'm at this point too. I just was curious to hear your thoughts on it. I know I've heard you talk about how if they can't get pressure, it's over, and I agree. Because if you have to blitz Patrick, you're in trouble.
You're gonna lose.
So, on that same front, Mahomes against number one defenses, because this is supposedly the number one defense in the league. I think this is off of an ESPN graphic. The team points per game against the number one defense is 37 points a game, which is insane. He's never lost. He's got over a 70% completion percentage. He's got almost 3 touchdowns per game against the number one defense and 108.5 passer rating. He's also given Fangio a lot of problems. Why would this be any different if we had to go at it from another angle? Why would this game be any different?
I mean, look, Fangio in those 8 games, he's on 8. Mahomes only averages 230 yards a game in those games. The problem for Fangio has been what I just talked about. He can't get pressure. I mean, in those 8 games, he's gotten 11 sacks. And Mahomes has been able to sit back there and not turn the ball over and just dot up the receiver, and that's it. Like, if this game's going to be different, it's going to be because Philadelphia scores a lot more points offensively than Fangio is usually getting from teams like when he coached in Denver to help out. And it can change the way they play a little bit defensively. But Fangio's going to have to do something different in this game. Like, if they just sit back and they don't blitz, and they're 28th in blitz rate this year. Like, they don't blitz. They play a lot of zone. They play match concepts out of it where they'll kind of mirror routes and match up the combinations. The Eagles do not try to trick you on the other side of the ball. They are very much this is what we do. Stop it. And it's worked for them. The problem with that is that's great against a rookie quarterback and a Jaden Daniels, as good as he is. That's great against Jordan Love with a bad offensive line or Matthew Stafford in a snowstorm. This is Patrick Mahomes in ideal conditions in a game that he's got 2 weeks to prepare for, and he's known you for years. Like, he knows what you're going to do. You've got to throw something at him that they're not ready for. If Fangio comes out in this game, they just drop Steph in the entire game, and they can't get pressure. I don't care if they've got Dion back there. Like, he's going to find somebody. He just is. He's too great of a player. I watched Brady for years do that. Well, this team matches up. That team matches up. This corner, that's safe. That's nice. Like, it just doesn't matter. And Andy's one of the best schemers in the league offensively. They will scheme guys open. They will put guys in conflict, and they will bury them. I'll tell you what, one guy to watch in this game, Warren Burks for the Eagles is playing a lot now because Kobe Dean is out for the year. Warren Burks is not a bad player, but he can't cover. And last year, he was the guy who came in for Dre Greenlaw in San Francisco. And the Chiefs relentlessly went at Warren Burks with Kelsey in that game. Just, I mean, over and over and over. There's nothing they can do. The Chiefs are going to go at Warren Burks in this game. They are going to do everything they possibly can to isolate him on a tight end. And say, all right, cover him. Look, I think if you're Fangio, you've got to break tendency a little bit in this game. If you just do what you've always done, you're going to get the same result you've always gotten. And he's 0-8 in 8 games against them.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my last things was from the game breakdown kind of stuff, because obviously we got a long week. We want to get through several different things, but with Travis, he didn't have a ton of production last week after having a big game against Houston, which was kind of expected. The Bills were basically like, yeah, he's not beating us, and that's fine. That's what some teams are going to do. But I just was wondering who they're gonna, if Philly's gonna try to use anybody besides Oren Burks, which you just talked about, to try to deal with him and what they do. But with Fangio's scheme and setup, I don't know. I don't know what that answer is, because he eats zone coverage worse than just about anybody in the league. He'll destroy the zone just by, oh, I'm running where you're not.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they'll try to put Zach Bond on him because he's a first-team All-Pro and he can cover. But again, if the Chiefs know where you're going to be, it's a problem. Like, Fangio was also a consultant on that Eagles team 2 years ago defensively. They annihilated that defense. And that was the defense everybody thought, oh my God, one of the great defenses of all time. And the Chiefs just took them apart at the joints in the second half of that game. The Chiefs are incredible, offensively and defensively, but especially offensively. They use your tendencies and they use your rules against you. They will destroy you if they know your rules. Spagnuolo is amazing at that with pressures, where they know what your rules are on the offensive line, and they just break them over and over and over. And it's, I think sometimes people make the mistake of looking at a game and going, well, the Eagles can adjust this and do that. Like the Jalen Carter thing. Well, he plays over right guard. Well, they'll just play him over Caliendo this game. You are who you are. Like, most of the time, you are what you are. It's like in this game. Like, is Fangio going to come out and play 90% man coverage this game? No. That's not who they are. At some point, it's the same way with the Chiefs, right? Like, they're not going to come out and not blitz. They blitz. That's what got you here. I think, sometimes people make the mistake of thinking, like, well, that's a weakness. They're just going to go after it. Like, no. Like, the Chiefs, when they play on defense and they play against a team that comes out with three receivers, they're always in nickel. And then they'll shoot over the dime on third down sometimes. They may make a slight adjustment. But, like, if the Eagles come out with three receivers and run the ball, the Chiefs are going to stay in nickel. They're not going to go to base. They're not. And the Eagles know it. And if you can run successfully out of that, you're going to have success. And the Chiefs will live with it. You are what you are in this game. And that is, I think, if I was an Eagles fan, that would be the thing that scares me the most about this game, is you are very static offensively. You do not do a lot of motions. You don't use the middle of the field in the pass game. Like, they're not just going to radically all of a sudden start throwing everything between the hash marks in this thing. Like, you're not. Like, you are what you are. The fact that Andy and Spagnuolo have had 2 weeks to prepare for a team that basically they just do what they do and they don't really adjust much, that would scare the hell out of me if I was an Eagles fan.
Yep, I've been saying for a long time, and it's been a theme for me this playoffs. If the teams are somewhat equal, and it comes down to what's differentiating, it's coaching and the quarterback, and if both of those things are on one team's side, they're likely going to win that game. And yeah. I don't think it's really a question who's the better coach or the better quarterback, right? In this one. So for me, I guess the one other thing on the play side is the recipe for Saquon is just tackle. Yeah, I mean that seems to be what he's done a lot of against the other teams that he's hurt, is guys. And I know he's a freak athlete. He changes angles. He makes things tough, but guys just whiffing tackles or getting run over. I just don't. That's not something the Chiefs usually struggle with. It's one of the things they do best is tackling, other than like once a year where they forget how for a week and then they all of a sudden remember after that. Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't want to just stack 8 in the box against this team. Like, I actually think for the Chiefs, I'd play too high in this game. I'd play too high. I'd keep the top on the receivers. I'd tell McDuffie and Watson to play man underneath and just take away any underneath routes. If I'm Spags in this game, look, you are not throwing any ball that's an out-breaking route. You're not getting a comeback. You're not getting an out route. Like, I would tell McDuffie and Watson, you sit underneath these guys and have these, and I tell the safeties, drive on anything and punish the hell out of them on any ball that's got to have air under it. Anything. Any ball that's got air, and you just crush them. Like, if they want to throw the ball down the middle of the field, fine, we'll make that adjustment. They don't do it. They never do it. If you look at their passing charts, it's almost impossible. Like, they don't throw the ball in between the numbers. They refuse to anything past 5 yards. I would tell the safeties, you just cheat wide. And you're going to play over the top of Smith and of Brown. We'll leave everybody else one-on-one. Goddard wants to have 5 catches for 65 yards. Great, let him have it. I wouldn't care. And I would put, 7 guys or so down in that box. And I'd say to Philadelphia, look, if you want to rush 20 times for 100, 110 yards, it's great. Have fun. Like I want to be able to limit the explosive runs and tackle. And if I can do that, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm fine with him running for 5 yards a clip for 20 carries. Fine. You're not going to lose because of that. If I'm Kansas City, that's how I play. I mean, look, Joe Mixon ran the ball well. James Cook ran the ball well. What did it matter? Who cares? If I'm now, look, those guys are not Barkley. I get it. But the point is, Barkley's strength this year more than anything has been these huge runs, 60, 70-yard run. Those are the runs you can't have in this game. He breaks one for 12 yards, fine. Fine. You'll live. You'll live. You can't let him get out the gate because your linebacker misses a gap and the safety misses a tackle and then he's gone for 60 yards. Those are the runs that are the real impact runs in this game.
Yep, that's what the viewpoint has been. It's what he did to Washington not even 2 weeks ago. It's just, hey, look, home run ball, bye. First play of the game for them?
First play of the game from
on offense. That's what you can't have happen. So it sounds like it's going to be a big money earning day for Nick Bolton, a big money earning day for Trey Smith. Just a few of those, just to name a few guys that are looking for deals that are upcoming and due. Do you have any other keys to the game besides those couple of things that we've already touched on, obviously?
The Eagles are not bad on special teams. They're a pretty decent special teams unit. I think Nico Remigio could be a huge part of this game. That kid has been inches from breaking about 3 different returns for touchdowns in the last month. He is really good. Now, he's got to hold on to the ball. He's had a couple of fumbles, okay, which could also factor in, like if the Chiefs give away a possession here. That kid could take one at 90 yards to the house. There are certain guys when you watch them as returners, they just have a feel for it. They see a lane, they pick a spot, they beat a tackler, and they're gone. He had a huge return against Pittsburgh. He had a huge return against Houston. He had a huge return against Buffalo. Nobody is going to talk about that guy all week. The Chiefs broke one with Tony a couple of years ago. Now, that special teams unit was not good. This special teams unit is above average. But if I'm the Chiefs, Remigio's the kind of guy, like, he can steal a possession. He can steal 7 points for you, where he gets loose and he's gone. He's been an excellent returner since coming into the role, and I think he's the guy to watch in this game.
Awesome, Mike. He's been exciting to watch ever since he's gotten that call up when McColl went down, and it sucks that McColl's going to have to sit out and not be able to do it, but Nico's been great, and it's definitely been a shot in the arm for this team. You can see it. I talked about it a bunch leading into the Bills game where I thought special teams was going to play a huge role because Buffalo's special teams unit was so bad so often for so long, and he almost had a second one right before half where he got shoestringed, or he might have been out the gate to at least put him in field goal position for that too. So you're headed down on Wednesday to New Orleans. Where are you going when you get down there? Where are your spots? Give a couple of. Have you been? Do you know?
I've never been to New Orleans. My wife is coming down with me, and she has in her phone about 100 different places to eat. She's a big foodie. I'm going to go wherever she wants to go.
There you go.
I'm going to go to the World War II Museum because I'm a big World War II guy. Both my grandparents were in it. I'm going to check that out. I've always wanted to. But other than that, I'm going wherever there's seafood. And wherever I can get a drink. So I'll be there.
There's rumors about hurricanes down there, and not the weather disaster, but the drinks.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Believe me, we're gonna find each other.
And big beignet area from all accounts too. So you're gonna have to try and grab one of those. And I hear they're basically a 24-hour food item down there. You can get breakfast ones, lunch ones, dinner ones, dessert ones, all kinds of beignet options. So. With that, Matt, where can everybody find you if they don't already know? I'd be stunned, but where can everybody find you and get your stuff?
Just on Twitter at Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated. Find all my written work there. I've got a lot of it coming out this week. I've got a piece on Joe Thuney. I talked to Jeff Schwartz and Bruce Matthews for. It's coming out Tuesday. Wednesday, I have plays that are going to decide the game or could decide the game. Friday, column on the pass rush for the Eagles, and I have a lot of numbers in there about how they could, what they're going to try to do with the Chiefs and why the Chiefs are a tough matchup in that regard for them. And then Sunday, Look, no matter how this game shakes, my assignment for Sports Illustrated, I'm going to be in the locker room for the t-shirt after the game. And so my story coming out Monday is going to be like, this is either the most depressed room we've ever seen. Here's what it looked like. Or I'm covered in beer and champagne, and here's what it looked like. So I'll have plenty of coverage along with the rest of the team over at Sports Illustrated this week.
Matt also recently put out, I believe it was part 2 that just came out for your top 50. Was it top 50 games?
Top 50 most memorable games of Super Bowl era. It was a 2-part series. They're both out. 37-person panel for it. Had quotes from players or coaches for every game. And I mean, we're talking Bobby Bell, Joe Namath, Larry Zonka, Dan Fouts, Dick Vermeil, Joe Green, Ray Lewis. Oh, God. I mean, on and on. Dave Robinson's Hall of Fame linebacker, Drew Pearson, Hall of Famers galore. So it's not just me writing about these games or our panel writing about these games. It's actually like through the eyes of the men who played in these games.
Saw the Queen of Darkness was also in there on that, Miss Amy Trask. So
she was Amy. Awesome. Amy is the best.
She's one of my favorites, even though she's a Raider at heart, through and through. She's one of my favorite personalities of people to interact with on Twitter. She's incredibly nice. If you guys don't know Amy, you should get to know Amy. She's incredibly intelligent too.
Like that's who she is as a human being. Like I've had many calls and conversations with Amy. Amy is like how polite she is on Twitter is exactly who Amy Trask is.
That's awesome. Not always the case. Awesome to hear that it is actually that. Well, Matt, we appreciate you taking some time out of the busyness before you get ready to head down to New Orleans. You guys, safe travels with you and the wife. Enjoy the whole hecticness of the week that is the Super Bowl, and we look forward to the rest of your coverage. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. Take care.